Hey, today is the day we have been waiting for. We're going to finish Wayside School Gets a Little Stranger. This is chapter 30 and it's called The Little Stranger. So now we're going to find out, well, what does it mean by gets a little stranger? It kind of implies two things, like it got weirder, right? Or there's actually a little stranger. Who do you think the little stranger is? It's a baby. Wayside School was no fun anymore. "Hey, out of my way, Buster," said Dee Dee as she pushed back past Ron on her way to her seat. "Hey, keep your hairy paws to yourself," said Ron. Nobody had any friends. Everyone hated everybody except Miss Snowguard. They all liked her. But then a miracle happened. A new kid came to school. The new kid couldn't talk. She had no teeth, and she was almost bald. She was beautiful. Her name was Mavis Jules. She was only 4 days old. She really was a new kid. Mrs. Jules carried her into the classroom, and when the baby came through the door, all the hate flew out the window. Louis came in behind them carrying a bassinet, a diaper bag, an assortment of toys, and a baby bottle. "It's Mrs. Jules and her baby," Todd exclaimed. Louis set the bassinet on Todd's desk. Mrs. Jules gently laid her baby down in it, on soft yellow blankets. Everyone crowded around the little stranger. "Look at her totally tiny toes," Bibi squealed. "Aren't those the cutest things you've ever seen in your whole life?" "Check out her nose," said Myron. She's so beautiful, Mrs. Jules," said Joy. "Can I touch her?" "Sure," said Mrs. Jules. They all took turns touching the baby. "Goo, goo, goo," said Mac as he gently shook Mavis's little hand. "Eagle, wiggle, poo, poo," said Allison, tapping her on the nose. "Eagle, wiggle, poo, poo, poos," said Rondi, tickling her foot. "Yibbiddle, bibbidle," said Todd. "Oh, goo, boo, boo," cooed Joe. "She's never going to learn to talk around you kids," said Mrs. Jules with a laugh. Dana was so happy she cried. She hugged Mrs. Jules. Then they all took turns hugging Mrs. Jules. Of course, there was one person who wasn't happy. "May I hold her, Mrs. Jules?" Miss Snowguard asked sweetly. Miss Jules looked at the substitute teacher. "It's okay," said Allison. "Miss Snowguard's a real nice teacher." "Sure, go ahead," said Mrs. Jules. "I'm sorry for interrupting your class like this." "Oh, that's quite all right," said Miss Snowguard, picking up Mrs. Jules' baby. "She's just adorable." The window by Sherry's desk was wide open. "That's kind of dangerous," Miss Snowguard realized. Somebody might actually drop something out the window. She slowly moved toward it as she swayed with the baby. "I've heard so much about you, Mrs. Jules," she said. "The children have missed you." "I have missed them too," said Mrs. Jules. There was a rubber band ball on the floor next to Sherry's desk. Sherry had been making it, although it wasn't nearly as big as the one Mr. Kidswater had been making. "If I tripped over that rubber band ball, something awful might happen," thought Miss Snowguard. She was just about to step on it when suddenly she became very curious about the kind of thoughts babies had. She had never listened to a baby's brain before. Miss Snowguard held Mavis close to her heart and she listened. She gasped. Her whole face turned white, and then her legs wobbled beneath her. As she tried to get her balance, she stepped on a rubber band ball and fell towards the open window. Louis jumped over Sherry's desk and grabbed her just in time. Mrs. Jules hurried over. Miss Snowguard tenderly handed Mrs. Jules the baby. Then she fainted. It's impossible to describe in words exactly what Miss Snowguard heard when she listened to Mavis's brain. Babies don't think in words. Miss Snowguard heard pure love and trust and faith, and with no words to get in the way. It was a love so strong that it dissolved away all the bitterness that had been caked around her heart. She opened her eyes. "Are you all right?" Miss Snowguard asked Stephen. All the children were very worried about her. Miss Snowguard smiled at Louis, who was still holding her. "I'm fine," she said. Then she took a couple of steps to steady herself. "In fact, I think I'm better than I've been in a long time." She laughed and then hugged Stephen. "You should be very proud of your class," she told Mrs. Jules. "They're bright, well-behaved, and just a pleasure to teach." "We are?" asked Mauricia. Miss Snowguard fluffed Mauricia's hair. "Yes, you are," she said. Mauricia smiled up at her. I know, said Mrs. Jules. As I told my obstetrician. Your what? Asked Joy. Obstetrician, said Mrs. Jules. That's the doctor who helped me have the baby. Then once a baby is born, she gets a new doctor. That is called a pediatrician. That's different from a podiatrist, who's a doctor who takes care of people's feet. There's so many different kinds of doctors. There's also a... Todd raised his hand. Mrs. Jules, you're getting a little boring, he said. Mrs. Jules made Todd write his name on the blackboard under the word discipline. I guess some things don't change. Hey, Louis, shouted Mac. Ask Miss Nogard out on a date. Everyone looked at Louis. Miss Nogard looked at him, too. Do it, Louis, said Leslie. I really would like to get to know you better, Miss Nogard, he said. Ooh, said Paul and Leslie. Way to go, Louis, cheered DJ. Call me Wendy, said Wendy Nogard. Ooh, said Phoebe and Calvin. Okay, Wendy, said Miss Nogard. You can call me Louis. I already do, said Wendy. She smiled at him. He smiled back. So what do you say, he asked. Would you like to go out with me sometime? Miss Nogard hesitated. Hesitated means paused. Say yes, Miss Nogard, urged Jenny. Miss Nogard took a deep breath. I like you, Louis, she said, but first there's something you should know about me. She bent over and parted the hair on top of her head. Everyone crowded around to get a good look. It's an ear, shouted Jason. Yes, it's an ear, said Miss Nogard. Cool, said Terrence. Can I touch it, asked Dina. Everyone took turns touching her ear, the one on top of her head, I mean. So, Louis, are you sure you still want to go out with me, she asked. Louis held her hands in his. I like you a lot, he said. It doesn't matter how many ears you have. He paused for a second. How many ears do you have? Just 3, she assured him. I think your ears are beautiful, said Louis. I think your nose and eyebrows are beautiful. Miss Nogard didn't have to read Louis's mind to know he was telling the truth. She could see it in his eyes. His eyes were like the moon. She kissed him. The mustache tickled. Everybody, oohed. Yeah, no need for the bookmark. That's it. Tomorrow, we'll start Wayside School Beneath the Cloud of Doom. It was released in March. I'm really excited. You'll be the first group of kids I get to share this one with. Thank you guys. Have a great day.